All right, hello friends, how you doing? Day 495, I believe. Wow, almost at 500. That is amazing. I cannot believe it. I hope you're doing amazing on this weekend. And it's Sunday, coming back for another episode of Storytime Sunday, my friends. And so, what I want to come in today and share with you is my experience with Jehovah's Witnesses. And so, uh, for those who don't know what Jehovah's Witnesses are, they are if you will, I don't know, I'll say Christian denomination, a religion, basically. Okay, and uh, when I grew up, I grew up in Langley, and my parents were, kind of Buddhist, if you will. They weren't like serious or anything. So when I went to temple, it was always okay. Feels kind of weird, but my parents and I go with them, and I learn a little bit, but it never really felt connected to it. And then growing up in Maine, there's a lot of Christians, so I was exposed to that. I do remember people talking about their experiences with Jehovah's Witnesses, and they would always make fun of them. And I'm like, I don't know, I didn't know why they would do that, but okay. I never had, I don't recall any specific instances or experiences with Jehovah's Witnesses until I'll bring you up to present day. Again, I hear lots of stories from other people, their experiences, and I'm just sharing with you mine. So the pandemic hit, and I had a friend message me on Facebook asking me a certain question. Obviously, because of disease of the pandemic and wars and all that stuff, and I knew where she was going with it. But I'm always open to having a chat and conversation, see what people have to share, uh, and hopefully they've done some research and some critical thinking on their own to actually come to a conversation with some value to add. I find most people they don't because they just regurgitate things that they've heard from other people, and that's fine if that's what how they want to live their life. But what? If I have a conversation with you, hopefully you've done some thinking, like your own thinking. Because if I ask some questions, if you don't know your own thinking, we're not gonna have much of a conversation. I'll always try to be as respectful as possible, but I enjoy a deep conversation about life, about spirituality, about religion, about anything. I'm open to anything. Because at the end of the day, I've shared with you many times. I believe we are one family, and hopefully we want the best for each other. And so my friend Kate, she messaged me, and I know I was like, okay, fine. So I asked her, so tell me, what are your thoughts? And so she shared a thing, and then so I said, well, you know what? Well, obviously this is a deeper conversation. Why don't we have a catch up and chat about it? And so she agreed, and we had a nice chat. And she shared with me that she was Jehovah's Witness. I'm like, okay, cool. Tell me about your story. Why do you believe what you believe, and how'd you get there? And so I asked her a bunch of questions, and she tried her best to answer them, but she wasn't able to answer a number of them. So she said, you know what, you need to talk to somebody else. So she introduced me to a gentleman in what happened to be a Vietnamese congregation. His name Grant. Met him and his wife Laura. A really nice couple, and had a nice chat with him. And afterwards, he asked me if I'd be open to a Bible study. I'm thinking, well, it's a pandemic. I've got so much time. Why not? I asked him what it looked like, what the commitment is. This is once a week, about an hour. Just go through a booklet that they've got together, that the Jehovah's Witness have put together. So I'm like, okay, sure. Let's start that and let's see where it goes. And so we started, and obviously before we got into some really deep or certain topics, he wanted to kind of share certain things first, so we have laid a foundation. And so that's one thing I really appreciated about that Bible study is that there's some structure to it, and for most of my conversations when I talk to people when it comes to religion, we talk about certain subjects, and I ask them questions, and then at some point they get stumped, if you will. They don't know how to answer a certain question, and I'm like, okay, so sometimes people offer, let me talk to some people and get back to you. Sometimes they get back to me, sometimes they don't. But it's all good. I appreciate the opportunity to chat about really the most important area of our lives, which is spirituality. And so I did this Bible study with Grant for about a year, actually. And I came out to a few of their Sunday meetings. And this is all on Zoom. And met some really nice people, all friendly, respectful. But then I couldn't understand everything because it was in Vietnamese. And so Grant, he suggested that I continue my study in English with the English congregation. So he introduced me to Scott and his wife Kelly. Kelly is actually Vietnamese as well. So I said, sure. So I've been studying with Scott for just under a year now. And today, the reason why I'm sharing this today is because it's the first time I actually came to one of their kingdom halls and attended one of their Sunday service in person. And I had met so many people over Zoom, and it's the first time I ever in person. It's actually quite nice. And so, my experience, today was, it's about an hour and a half. They do a study from their publication called The Watchtower, and they ask people to study beforehand. They answer some questions, share some thoughts, and it's really just a group study. Basically, is what it is. That's for Sunday. They have another weekly meeting on Tuesdays, which I have not been able to attend yet, to explore and to see, because I'm at a point where, I always believe spirituality is the most important area of my life. I just kind of put it off for a while. Over the last 5-6 years, when I really started to be more serious about it. And so I'm exploring kind of to figure out, okay, what's out there, and why do people believe what they do. If people ask me if I'm religious, I say no, I'm not subscribed to any religion, but if you were to ask me, my religion would be love and compassion. And I think that's an underlying theme for every type of religion, actually, that teaches out there. Love yourself, love thy neighbor, love each other, take care of each other, be a good person, basically. You know what I'm saying? And so religion it teaches actually a lot of really great stuff. But at the same time, if interpreted a certain way, it can actually be used for very bad purposes, bad intentions. Really, I think when it comes down to it, a lot of it comes down to interpretation. And so that's why I like to have conversations with people who have really explored their faith and have a solid foundation, instead of just I kind of grew up around it, I just I accept it as truth. So excuse me. So anyways, that's kind of where I'm at right now. But my experience has been so far, like every Jehovah's Witness that I've met so far and talked to, they've been very respectful. They've been very loving in terms of willing to serve, willing to answer my questions, willing to actually follow up with my questions that they didn't have answers for. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I appreciate that a lot of the questions I ask, they have an answer at least. I may not fully understand certain answers or fully, I shouldn't say agree. It's not an agree thing. It's just a fully understand yet. Because for me, I'm not looking to try to agree with anything. I'm just trying to understand so that I can make my own, create my own belief system, basically, right? And if you're at a point where you're exploring, I would definitely encourage you to do the same thing. Like, don't go in there trying to, find proof or evidence to go along with what you're currently thinking. Because then when you do that, it's very biased, right? And so, and then every person that I've met so far, still the same thing, very open, very, for the most part, they haven't been pushy or trying to force me into their religion preemptively or really quickly or what have you. But at the same time, I know why they're sharing the good news and what they want, right? And I believe it's from a good heart and good intentions. I think a lot of times, people, they do things where it may not come across as loving or in a nice way. But I believe that for the most part, most people, they're actually doing it from a good heart, from good intentions, right? They want to save you, so they're trying to share certain information that hopefully you will accept, because that's their truth, right? Whether it be religion, even veganism, right? Lots of advocates, I see them trying to share information, but sometimes the way they do it may not be the best way. You know, guilting and shaming people have never been effective. I've heard of stories, people who in religion, they try to make people believe what they believe by guilting and shaming them as well. I'm like, that has never been effective. People, like, that might work on maybe point something percentage of the population there. In other words, it's not very effective. Nobody wants to feel like they are a bad person, because when you're shaming somebody, that's what you're saying. You're saying you are a bad person when you're shaming somebody. When you're trying to make guilt somebody, that means that you think they're doing something bad. Not necessarily they're a bad person, but they're doing something bad. Either way, no one wants that intimation. And so, um, this is what I've learned myself, from my experience, is that you can never make anybody do anything. There's only one way if you want to make somebody do something that you want them to do, and that is to get them to do it because they want to do it. And so, and again, guilting and shaming never accomplishes that, or it doesn't really create a very positive experience for anybody. So anyway, that's kind of my experience so far. And so, they're having a memorial of Jesus Christ on Friday, which I'm planning to attend. Again, I'm trying to learn what I can and see how people celebrate certain things, religion and so forth. I remember one time in university, I was going out with a girl that was Christian, and she invited me out to church for Good Friday and Easter Monday and all that. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is different. But, I wanted to learn and obviously support her as well. Uh, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, I've heard lots of people have, negative stories of, Jehovah's Witnesses bugging them while they're eating at home, when they're door knocking pre-pandemic. They're at I find a lot of them at the transit stations with a cart or what have you with their publications, and they just want to have a conversation. And as long as they are respectful and they're not trying to force their own beliefs on you, I think that's all fair. And so, I think a lot of times when people have a certain experience with a group of people, if you will, whether it be Jehovah's Witnesses, vegans, business network marketers, right? People tend to paint a broad brush with, oh, you know what? Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses, so pushy. They're all like that. Or, vegan, same thing. It doesn't really matter what it is. Network marketers, it doesn't matter. Same thing. They have one bad experience and they think they're all the same. If you think that way, if you're like that, I would challenge you, really, to think if that's actually a good way to live. Really, is that a good mindset to have? Because really, that's nothing different than I don't know, a racist person, right? Oh, I had this one bad experience with this Asian driver, horrible. They cut me off. They're all bad drivers, right? Like, does that make any sense? Yet that's what a lot of people do. And every time I hear that, I'm like, oh, okay. They don't think they're judgy, but by thinking that way, they are actually judging, which I don't think is very helpful in creating a more unified and accepting, loving society. And so, my hope is that you work on learning how to be open to new ideas without trying to prove anybody right or wrong. Because really, who is right? And how important is it for you to be right? I'm hoping that instead of going to a conversation, you're asking yourself, who's right, ask yourself what's right, right? And that requires critical thinking, obviously. And unfortunately, it wasn't really taught in school. Well, not for me growing up, anyways. Maybe things have changed now. Hopefully, it has. But that's a skill that we definitely all need to develop to make this world a better place. Anyway, that's kind of all I wanted to share. If any of you have had experience with Jehovah's Witnesses, I would love to hear your experience, right? Because we all have different experiences, and again, good or bad, it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just different experiences. And for me so far, it's been positive. I've had a few conversations, obviously, with some of the the congregational people that have that were not the best, but that's just one or two people, right? But the majority I found have been very respectful and very loving and very open, and so I appreciate that. Anyway, that's kind of I think that's all I want to share tonight on my experience with Jehovah's Witnesses. Anyways, hopefully something there helps you. Oh, actually, I knew something else I wanted to share. Sorry, this is gonna be a little long live, but yeah, some of the stuff that they're sharing with me, I was like flabbergasted because I've been around a lot of Christians, but they don't actually share a lot of what the Bible teaches. They just kind of pick out certain scriptures, and so when they walk me through, they share some stuff with me that freaking blew my mind. Number one, I'll share a couple with you. Number one, I always thought, why do really bad things happen, right? Like, if it's a loving God, like, they wouldn't want to make people suffer, right? And one thing that they were teaching me in the Bible is that God is actually not in control of the world right now. Satan is. The devil is. I'm like, what? I've not heard this before. Tell me more. And so we had a great conversation about it. Then I would talk to some of my Christian friends, and they said, and they would, yeah, that's what the Bible says. Like, I've known you for how long, and you didn't tell me this stuff, right? And another one is that, the last book of Revelation, talks about a hope of basically having heaven on earth, or, just all the bad, all the diseases, all the wars, all the sadness, all bad stuff, greed, stealing, all that stuff is going to be gone one day when Jesus comes back. And I'm like, oh, so it's like utopia, basically. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, because for myself, ever since I can remember, I think like since I was 5 or 6 even, I always had this vision in my head of a united world where it's full of love and people were connected and they cared about each other. Of course, looking at how the world is now, I'm like, man, how is that ever going to be a possibility? However, during my study, they're teaching me that one day that will happen, that we will have utopia on earth. I'm like, what? So that blew my mind. And of course, there's a number of other things, right? And I still don't understand everything, and I question a bunch of everything basically. And there's some things I still don't fully understand yet, because part of it I don't agree per se to a certain extent, but just because I don't agree, maybe it's I don't understand. So I'm just trying to understand it. And so those are just a couple things. There's some other stuff as well that I'm like, why haven't any of my friends kind of share some of the stuff? This is actually pretty important information. So, anyways, that's the one thing I really like the most so far about what the Bible shares is that that Jesus Christ is coming back one day, and we will have utopia basically. And there's some more to it. I don't want to get into all the details. But that's kind of all I want to share tonight, my friends. Sorry, it's a little long. I don't mean it to be 20 minutes, but I've had quite the experience, and I thought I'd share. And obviously, share a couple of my thoughts on my journey so far. Hopefully, something there helped with you. And the biggest thing I would encourage you is to start your spiritual journey, whatever that looks like. All right, friends. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.